Hey everybody, your Friendly Math Tutor here with our bonus episode 9 of our SAT mini course. So I want to go over the closer problem from episode 8, right? So we want to make sure that we end that. And then what I want to do is kind of just do a review session, because each session, each episode 1 through 8 focused on a different type of problem. So I just wanted to have this little bonus for you right before your SAT this coming Saturday to kind of just give you a review of everything that we did. So I picked out 12 problems, and we're going to go through each problem together and just talk about them and pick the way that I believe is the fastest way to do that problem and kind of demonstrate each one of these strategies. And they're all going to be kind of mixed up. So I'll refer back to a specific episode and we'll just talk about that problem. I'm not going to do them all the different ways. We're going to really just focus on the one way to do each problem, but we will talk about the other ways, the school way and the Your Friendly Math Tutor way and all of that. So this is kind of a way to summarize all 8 episodes all into just one episode, all right? So I really hope you enjoy this. So let's go, and just some unfinished business is our closer problem from episode 8. And this is from College Board Practice Test 7, Section 3, number 6. It says if 2x plus 8 equals 16, what is the value of x plus 4? So in episode 8, we talked about when they asked you for a specific expression, there's usually a way to get right to that expression as opposed to solving for x and then plugging back in. And we talked about, it's more of just like a mentality of I am going to do this as efficiently as possible. So instead of subtracting 8 divided by 2 to get x and then having to plug in for x, again, that's not very difficult, but it's just trying to save as many seconds as we possibly can throughout the whole test, and then gaining that time back on a more difficult problem and allowing us to have time to solve that problem. So what we would do here is we want to find a way to go directly from 2x plus 8 to x plus 4. And we can do that simply by just dividing by 2. So if I divide every term by 2, I'll keep each side balanced, and I'm left with x plus 4 equals 8, and then I'm finished, right? My goal was to find x plus 4. It was not to find x. And I can get to this expression directly in one step. And this is a problem where you could possibly even just do this without writing anything. Just divide everything by 2. So this divided by 2 is 8, and you're done, and you move on, all right? So that is hopefully a little bit of a time saver, and those little bit of things that we'd save time on add up to a lot over the course of the entire math, 2 sections on the math part of the SAT. All right, so let's move on. All right, now on to our bonus review. We are going to start with problem number 1, which is College Board Practice Test 8, Section 4, number 33. In the xy plane, the equations x plus 2y equals 10 and 3x plus 6y equals c represent the same line for some constant c. What is the value of c? So this is a callback to episode 5 on our linear systems. And we talked about linear systems having either infinite or no solutions. This is one of those cases because it says this represents the same line. If you graph 2 lines that are the same line, that is our infinite number of solutions. And what that's going to look like is literally, if it's the same line, they're going to look like the exact same equation. So if I write this out as x plus 2y equals 10, all right, and 3x plus 6y equals c. This is a case where I would actually use the school way, because the Your Friendly Math Tutor way was all surrounded around slope, right? I certainly could find the slope of this and the slope of this, but they're going to be the same because it says they're going to represent the same line, and there are no constants on this side. So your Friendly Math Tutor way really wouldn't do anything. It would just tell you that the slope of this line is the same as the slope of this line, and there would not be any way to find C doing it that way. So we're going to focus this way on the school way, which is, let's see if we can make these equations look exactly the same. Well, it's going to be easier to focus on the first equation because the coefficients of 1 and 2 are smaller than the coefficients of 3 and 6. So I'm going to simply make them the same by multiplying by 3. So I get 3x plus 6y equals 30. And then I just match them up. In order for these to be the exact same equations, I would need C to equal 30, and that's it. So the takeaway here is, in this particular problem, since the constant was over here on the right side, the school way of doing the kind of the elimination method to a certain point would be much more beneficial than your Friendly Math Tutor way, which focused on the slope. All right, so again, the whole point of this is not to always do your Friendly Math Tutor way. It's to figure out which way makes more sense for that problem. So as you'll see, these problems that I picked out, we're going to kind of have a mix so that you know what you should be thinking when you look at each problem. But the only way you're going to do these, again, most efficiently is if you know both ways and you know, okay, I know how to do this way, and that's certainly not the best way. I know how to do this way, and that's definitely the best way. All right, so let's move on. All right, now on to problem number 2. College Board Practice Test 8, Section 3, number 12. If 2a over b equals 1/2, what is the value of b over a? This is a callback to episode 2 where we pick our own values. And what I would say is, let's look at our 2a over b equals 1/2. Well, I want to pick nice, easy values for A and for B. So let's start, let's just look at the fraction as a whole. We want to make sure that this fraction is equal to 1/2. And I also want to pick a nice, easy value for A. So let's just say A equals 1. Well, if A equals 1, that gives us 2 in the numerator. And 2 over some value of b has to be 1/2. Well, that's simply 4, right? Because 2 over 4 equals 1/2. So now that I picked my values for a and b, I'm just going to go over and it says, what is the value of b over a? Well, b over a is simply 4 over 1, which is just 4. And that's it. That's all you got to do. Some of you may have been wondering why I didn't just look, because I think I did this in this exact episode, episode 2. I just looked at the denominator and said, oh, let's make b equal to 2. That would certainly work, but then I would have to pick a to be 1/2 in order to get 1 over here, and I just wanted to stay away from fractions within fractions. But these are the types of things of how you want to look at these problems. And one of the major themes in episode 2 was to pick the values that are best suited for that problem. And I just felt that 1 and 4 would kind of be the easiest way, but you certainly may have picked different numbers. You certainly could have just rearranged this in order to make it look like b over a, which is really just a callback to episode 8. I find that to be a little more complicated. But again, there are multiple ways to do all these problems, and I felt that b equal to 4 and a equal to 1 would lead us to the answer as quickly as we possibly could get there. All right, let's move on. All right, now on to problem number 3. College Board Practice Test 8, Section 3, number 3. I'm going to attempt this problem the exact way that I would like you to do this tomorrow when you take your SAT. So instead of reading, I'm going to notice, hey, look, I've got an equation. So I'm going to zoom in on that equation. So E equals O plus 4M plus P over 6. And I'm going to just skip everything else and look at my answer choices. All of my answer choices are also equations that are solved for P, all right? So this is a callback to episode 4, where we talked about literal equations. And not only did we talk about literal equations, we talked about skipping all of this, all right? They're talking about what E is the estimated time of the job, and O is the shortest, and N is the most likely. I mean, we don't have to have any understanding of that, so don't waste your time with that. Go right to this. Look at your answer choices. They're all solved for P, so let's just solve this equation and get P by itself. But the way that we're going to do this is simply just the school way. This is one of those episodes where there wasn't a school way and your Friendly Math Tutor way. Your Friendly Math Tutor way was to not do any of the reading, know exactly what you have to do right away, and save all that time, and then you actually solve the problem just using what you've learned in school and how to rearrange equations. So I would simply just multiply each side by 6. So 6E equals O plus 4M plus P. And again, P is what I'm isolating, so I want to move O and 4M to the other side. None of these are like terms, so I get 6E minus O minus 4M equals P. That's it. So now look at your answers, and that gives me A. P equals 6E minus O minus 4M. And that's what we have. So it's really, really that simple. This is also a problem that you could just do in a couple seconds. And then if you read this and your brain starts to try to figure out what this project manager is doing and what E and O and M and P and all that stand for, that's just going to get you more and more confused. So it's really, really simple to just notice the equation. This equation, if it's a literal equation as this is with a bunch of letters, and then all of our answer choices also have a bunch of variables, then it's going to be a literal equation. It could also be in slope-intercept form. Both of those are two keys, calling back to episode 3 and 4, that we don't have to read this whole thing. All right, so let's keep it moving. All right, now on to problem number 4, College Board Practice Test 9, Section 3, number 11. So they give us this equation. It is not a literal equation. We just have a bunch of answer choices, and it's definitely not in slope-intercept form, so let's go ahead and read and see what they want us to do. It just says, which of the following represents all the possible values of x that satisfy the equation above? So they just want us to solve this. Now, let's look at, if we were to attempt it the school way, we would cross multiply, and notice that cross multiplying here is going to give me 2x squared minus 6x. I'm going to end up with a quadratic to have to solve, which means I got to get everything to one side, I have to factor, and then set each factor equal to 0. It's a bit of a process. This is going to be a callback to episode 1, which was just plug in your answer choices. So let's take a quick look at our answer choices. We've got 0, 2, 4, negative 4, and that's it. So let's just start. Of those values, I find that 0 is going to be the easiest to plug in. So all I got to do is plug in 0. On the left side, I get 0 over 0 minus 3 equals 2 times 0 over 2. Well, 0 over negative 3 is 0, and 0 over 2 is 0, so that works. So 0 must be one of our answers, so that eliminates C and D. Now all we have to do is plug in either 2 or 4 and see if that works or not. So I'm just going to pick 2 just because it shows up first and it's a smaller number. So this is going to be plugging in. So this was checking 0. And now I want to check and see if 2 works. So I get 2 over 2 minus 3 equals 2 times 2 over 2. Well, this is 2 over negative 1. And this is 4 over 2. Well, 2 over negative 1 is not the same as 4 over 2 because side is negative and this side is positive. So 2 does not work. That means that 4 must work, because for 0 to work, and if it doesn't work in conjunction with 2, then these answer choices don't work, so the answer is B. You can certainly check, but it would not be necessary to. If you felt like you had some extra time and you wanted to just make sure, double check, you could plug in 4 here and it will certainly work. But again, it's about being as efficient as possible. So I only had to check 0 and 2. If 2 worked, then the answer would have been A, but it didn't, so it had to be B. All right, so that is how we plug in our answer choices, and we do it in a logical way to limit the amount of time that it takes us. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, now on to problem number 5. College Board Practice Test 6, Section 4, number 24. A customer's monthly water bill. Hold on. First of all, before I actually read this, I'll just do a quick scan. I don't see an equation at all that would be a literal equation or in slope-intercept form, so I am going to actually read this whole problem. All right, so it's something that you want to look for. A customer's monthly water bill was $75.74. Due to a rate increase, her monthly bill is now $79.86. To the nearest tenth of a percent, what percent did the amount of the customer's water bill increase? All right, so we want to look at this from what we were talking about back in episode, Episode 7 was our percents. We want to think about this as what number did we multiply the original one by? So $75.74. What did that get multiplied by to end up with this final bill of $79.86? All right. Well, this is really easy to solve. Just divide by 75/74. So X is going to equal, so 79.86 divided by 75/74 is 1.05. 4. We need to keep going, so 1.054. Okay. And what this represents now is not actually our answer. We've got to interpret that result. So we spoke about, first of all, if we get a number bigger than 1 or something more than 100%, then it must have been a rate increase. Well, that's pretty obvious because they said the word increase here, so that's nothing special. But we want to know exactly by how much. So how much more than 100% is this? Well, what we can do is just focus on this value here. That's how much more than 1 it is. And again, 1 and 100%. 1 is the decimal representation of 100%. So it increased by 0.054. Well, the way we want to change that to a percentage is we want to move the decimal back to the right twice. So that represents a 5.4% increase, which is D. All right? So when you solve an equation, if the number is bigger than 1, you basically take the 1 away and you move the decimal back to the right to figure out what percentage we're talking about. If this was a number less than 1, we would have subtracted the number from 1. Let's say it was 0.85. That is 0.15 away from 1, and then that would have been a discount or a decrease of 0.15 is really 15%. So you've got to be able to go back and forth with this way of thinking in order to solve these percent problems as quickly as possible. All right, let's keep it going. All right, now on to problem number 6. This is College Board Practice Test 2, Section 4, number 19. Notice we have a table, and let's just look through this. It says a sociologist chose 300 students at random from each of 2 schools and asked each student how many siblings he or she had. What is the median number of siblings for all the students surveyed? So what we have here is a frequency table, and we're asked to find the median. Well, the most important thing here is that the median is the middle number. And another important thing is that there are 300 students at random from each of the 2 schools. So that means we have 600 total students. And we want to know the median number of siblings for all the students surveyed. So we in fact are looking at the 600. So the quick way to do the median for a frequency table was to just divide by 2. And let me just be clear, the median, since it's an even number, is actually going to be between the 300th and 301st term or students, however we want to look at this, or really its number of siblings would be listed out. But all we really care about is we want to know the number of siblings, which specific category is going to put us over 300. All right. So all we have to do is just add. So for the number of siblings the number of people that had 0 siblings, that was 120 plus 140. So that puts us at 260, which does not put us over 300. So the median does not lie in that category. Then we go to the next category, which is one sibling. Well, we take the 260 from before, and now we add 80, and would you look at that, that puts us over 300. So this 80 students that had one sibling puts us past the halfway point, so the median number of siblings must be 1. And that is the quickest way to do that. I think I mentioned back in episode 6 when we talked about this that sometimes you'll be able to list them out and do the cross-out method, which is what you learned in school. But some of the problems are going to use numbers that are so large that that method would just not be feasible and would take way too long. And this is an example of that. All right, so you just add up the categories going down. Well, in this case, we have to add left to right just because there's 2 different schools. But we add the total of 0 siblings and then the total of 1 siblings. And that immediately put us past the halfway point. So therefore, that was the median. All right, it really is that simple. This is another problem that you can do very, very quickly. All right, let's keep it going. All right, now on to problem number 7. College Board Practice Test 10, Section 4, number 25. So we have a linear system, 2.4x minus 1.5y equals 0.3, and 1.6x plus 0.5y equals negative 1.3. It says a system of equations is graphed in the xy plane. What is the x coordinate of the intersection point xy of the system? All right, so this is back when in episode 5, where we were talking about linear systems, but this is not one of the 3 types of problems that we talked about. Or actually, I'm sorry, this is not one of the 2 types of problems that we actually went through. This is the one which the school way. They only ask for the x coordinate of the intersection. So it's not one of the infinite or no solution problems, which was the first type. And it's not asking us for an expression with x and y both in it. So this is a case where we would simply just do the school way. And the school way, when they're both set up in standard form, the best way is to just do the elimination method. So let me just rewrite this problem really quickly. And then the second problem. And this is really important, and this is where we do the school way, but we can do this strategically. So we always want to look at every problem strategically, right? Even if you do it the school way, there are still little shortcuts we can take. It wants to know the x coordinate. Well, if I only want to know the x coordinate, then the y is definitely what I should eliminate, because we remember from school, I could eliminate the x's, or I could eliminate the y's. Well, I don't want to eliminate the variable that I want to solve for, because then that creates an extra step at the end of plugging back in. So let's directly get x, and we will do that by multiplying the second equation by 3. So our first equation, I just keep the same. And in this case, since they're already opposites, I'm going to just keep them opposite. I've said that before. You can either make them the same and subtract, or make them opposite and add. I'm going to choose to do the latter on this one. So I distribute the 3, and I get 4.8x plus 1.5y equals negative 3.9. And then we add. So when we add the equations together, this is going to give me 7.2x. The y's are going to eliminate, and this is going to give me negative 3.6. All right, and then finally, I'm going to divide by 7.2. So x is, if you divide these, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. You would, this is section 4, you would have a calculator for this. So you would get 0.5, and that would be negative. And that is answer choice A. So you see a linear system. There's not always a shortcut, all right? In this case, it's just you do it the school way, but the mini shortcut is the fact that you choose to eliminate the y's since they asked you for the value of x. if they ask you for the value of y, you would probably want to eliminate the x's, all right? So you have these choices here, and you want to make the choice that's going to save you the most amount of time, and that process over and over and over again is going to just increase your score because you're going to have more times on other problems, all right? Let's keep this going. All right, now on to problem number 8, College Board Practice Test 10, Section 4, number 29. H equals 1.88 L plus 32.01. Oh, stop right there. No reason to read through this problem. I have a slope-intercept form problem. So this is a callback to episode 3. And what I need to do is just skip through to the end. It says, what is the meaning of 1.88? Well, 1.88 is in the position of slope. So some of the words that we were looking for the meaning of the slope was, rate of change, increase, decrease. All right, so then I just looked through the answers real fast. The approximate femur length, well, that doesn't seem to make any sense. The approximate increase, oh, that seems good. Oh no, the approximate increase. Oh no, the approximate increase. Got 3 answers that say increase. And your friendly math tutor told me just look for increase, circle that answer, and move on. Well, now we've got increase 3 times. So we have to look at this a little further. So slope was always rise over run. And more importantly, it's how much it rises when it runs by 1, because just think of this 1.88 can be written as that over 1. So it rises 1.88 as it runs 1. So now let's look at them a little more in depth. The approximate increase in a man's femur length in inches for each increase of 32.01 inches. Well, that doesn't make any sense. We should be increasing by 1 unit whenever we're talking about the meaning of slope. So now C, the approximate increase in a man's femur length in inches for each 1 inch increase in his height. Oh, that looks promising. I got a 1 unit increase. But then I go to D, the approximate increase of a man's height in inches for each 1 inch increase in his femur. So now I'm back to like, oh man, your friendly math tutor told me that it was for each 1 inch or 1 unit increase, inches for this problem. So what do I do now? Well, you've got to look even further. It's rise over run. Rise is the y, run is the x. In this problem, the y is the height and the x is the femur length. So we're increasing the height. So that leaves us with D, the increase in a man's height for each 1 inch increase in his femur length. So we've got to really, really understand that slope, not only is it increase or possibly decrease, and then not only is it increase or decrease per 1 unit, it also, you have to make sure that it's increase or decreasing the y value, and then for each 1 unit increase in the x value. And then in this case, the y value is the height, so D makes the most sense. All right, so I picked this problem for that reason, just so you don't take away these, you don't use these shortcuts and just oversimplify them. All right, so there is understanding that's necessary, but the understanding combined with kind of the shortcut, really where they meet is where your highest score is going to live. All right, so let's keep this going. All right, now on to problem number 9. College Board Practice Test 9, Section 3, number 12. 1 over the quantity 2x plus 1 plus 5. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression above for x is greater than 0? Oh, equivalent expression, all right? So that is a callback to episode 2 where we can pick our own values. So equivalent expressions was the perfect time to pick our own values. So what I'm going to do is just pick x equal to 0, and that makes this really simple. If I plug in 0 here, I'm going to get 1 over 1, which is 1 plus 5, so I get 6. So when x is 0, I get 6. So I look at A, when I plug in 0, I get 5, so that's wrong. When I plug in B, when I plug in 0 for B, I get 6. Oh, I must have the right answer, right? Well, not quite. I have to keep going. I have to make sure I eliminate all of the other answers. I plug in 0 here and I get 5, so that's gone. And then I plug in 0 here and, oh man, I get 6. So your friendly math tutor way doesn't work, right? Well, wrong. This just now eliminated the answer to B and D, and honestly, we did that very, very quickly. You can do that in probably like 5 to 10 seconds, where A and C are gone and B and D. So it's not that 0 was a terrible idea. It was really easy to plug in. So now we got to plug in a second value. So I'm going to pick 1, because that's so easy. Well, when I plug in 1 here, I get 1 over 3. Right, 1 over 2 plus 1 is 1/3 plus 5. And that is simply 1/3 plus 15/3, which is 16/3. So I'm looking for the answer 16/3, but I don't need to go back and plug into A and C. I've already eliminated them. So I only need to plug into B or D, only one of them. And if it's that one, then it works. And if it's not, it's the other one. So let's go to B, and we'll plug in 1. Well, if you plug in 1 here, you get 8. If you plug in 1 here, you get 3. And 8 over 3 is never going to be 16 over 3. So B is out, and now the answer is D. All right? So picking values there from episode 2 is a nice, solid way to do it. The school way is not too bad. You do have to get a common denominator, and it does take a little bit of time. It's really up to you how quickly you can do algebra, which way is actually quicker. But I just wanted to demonstrate this one and what happens when you pick a nice easy number like 0, and then there's still 2 answer choices left. If we had it just plugged in 0 and got 6 for B, we would have picked that answer and been wrong. So again, the logic of you are eliminating answers. So when you eliminate A and C, they're eliminated forever, but just because it worked for B doesn't mean it always works, all right? So the hope is that it didn't work for D, but it did. We picked a new value, another easy number, and then when we plug that in to B, B didn't work, and we don't have to waste our time with D. It's the only answer remaining, so it must be that, all right? So let's keep it going. All right, now on to problem number 10, College Board Practice Test 8, Section 3, number 19. All right, well, I see a paragraph. Do I have to read it? Well, I skim it real quick and I see an equation, y equals ax plus b. So I am not going to read the whole thing. So this one is from episode 3. This is a slope-intercept form equation. So let's just go to the end, and it says, what is the value of b? Well, what b was the y-intercept, and the y-intercept always represented some starting value or some initial value. So now let's go and read the problem until we figure out what the starting or initial value is. A startup company opened with 8 employees. I don't need to read anymore. It started with 8 employees. It talks about its growth plan and adding employees every quarter, right? We don't need to know any of that. We need to know there's an equation. What is the value of B, or what is the value of B? And B always is some starting or initial value. Well, they tell us the startup company opened with 8 employees. It started with 8 employees, so B must be 8. Everything else in the problem is just to throw you off and to get you thinking about other things and growth rates, and maybe that would have to do with the slope. But we only care about what the initial value was, and they said it right in the first sentence, so that's all we had to do. All right, let's keep going. All right, now on to problem number 11. College Board Practice Test 5, Section 3, number 3. What are the solutions to the quadratic equation 4x squared minus 8x minus 12 equals 0? So this is a callback to episode 1 where we could plug in our answer choices. But honestly, I don't think that that would be the quickest way to do it, because we have -1, -3, +1, and +3. So we have 4 different values we potentially would need to plug in. There's a lot of different combinations here. Every answer choice has 2 values, I think, and then plugging it into something squared especially this is a non-calculator problem. It's from section 3. I don't believe that plugging in answer choices is going to be our best use of our time here. So let's just go directly to the school way. And we should know that when we have a quadratic, we want it to equal 0, and then we want to factor. So I'm going to take out a 4. And then I'm going to factor this quadratic into its two factors. I know x and x, two numbers that multiply to -3 and add to -2. That is simply -3 and +1. Then when I set each factor equal to 0, I would get 3 here, because 3 minus 3 is 0. And then I would get -1 here, because -1 plus 1 is 0. And I would directly get the answer 3 and -1, which is answer choice B. So in that case, just going right in and doing the school way is going to be the quickest way. I feel like plugging in your answer choices could take a bit of time, especially with no calculator, and the fact that you have multiple places to plug in your x value. All right, so let's move on. All right, now on to problem number 12, our last review problem. College Board Practice Test 10, Section 4, number 27. We have an equation, 2/3, quantity 9x minus 6 minus 4 equals 9x minus 6. Says based on the equation above, what is the value of 3x minus 2? All right, so problem number 12 is a callback to our most recent episode, number 8, where they ask us for the value of an expression. And the school way would be to distribute this out, get your x's on one side, solve for x, plug or substitute x back in for 3x minus 2, and then get your answer. But that could take some time. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a way to just get our answer directly. One thing to notice in this problem is we have these 9x minus 6's, all right? And think about how that's related to 3x minus 2, all right? If you multiply 3x minus 2 by 3, you will get 9x minus 6. So what I would do is factor a 3 out of each of these. So if I factor a 3 out of here, I have 2/3, and then I take a 3 out, and I end up with 3x minus 2, minus 4, and then here I take out a 3, and I get 3x minus 2. Well, now it seems like we're getting somewhere because I have now introduced the thing, right, that I'm looking for, the expression or the quantity that I'm looking for. I get a nice cancellation here, all right, and then I end up with 2 times 3x minus 2 minus 4 equals 3 times 3x minus 2. All right, so now you may still think, oh, well, maybe I should distribute, right? Well, no, that's just going to get rid of the thing that we're looking for. So let's do a little like easy substitution, and maybe you'll see just how easy this problem is. So let's look at this 3x minus 2 as its own entity. So let's just call it another variable. I'm going to call it y. So this is like 2y minus 4 equals 3y. And when you look at it that way, you might see, oh wow, that's a lot easier. I made this 3x minus 2 by factoring out a 3 from each of these, only because I knew that's what we were looking for, all right? And now I've replaced 3x minus 2 with just some other variable, and I can solve this very simply by subtracting 2y. So -4, whoops, that's a pretty terrible 4. And that is our answer, because y was 3x minus 2, which is all we were looking for. So we figure out that that's -4. Simply, it's the quantity of 3x minus 2. We don't know what x is. We never need to know what x is. So solving this for x is going to take even longer, and then we're going to have to plug it back in for this x to figure out that our answer is -4. All right? So this is definitely a more complicated version of what we did in episode 8, but it is certainly, when you are asked to find an expression, there's usually a clever way to get to that expression without ever knowing the actual variable or variables that are included in the expression. All right? All right, well, I just want to thank everybody for watching all of these episodes. I wish you the best of luck on your SAT tomorrow. Please, like our channel, subscribe to it, leave comments, any other things that you want me to make episodes for. I can certainly do that for future SATs. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And once again, I know I just said it, but I just want to thank you for watching it. It really means a lot that anybody would watch these videos. It's pretty awesome. And until the next time, I plan on putting out more videos for other subjects, and I can even do more videos for the SAT. But until the next time, your friendly math tutor is out. Oh no, scratch that. That was terrible. Quantity, what was I doing? Whoops. All right, I'm gonna start that over.